Hello, everyone. I am Direwolf20, and welcome to the modding panel at MINECON 2016. How's everybody doing? So this panel is mining the code one mod at a time. We've got several mod developers, mod authors, an artist or two, a bunch of people involved in the modding community here. And today we'll be talking about some of the processes that they go through in making mods and working with mods and enjoying the mods. So quick show of hands, who here has played modded Minecraft before? Oh, that's a surprise. Cool. All right. So first off, we're just going to do introductions, just so you guys know who everybody is and what they do. So we're going to start right here with Aichun.
Hi, I'm Aichun. He already just introduced me. I make like 20 or so, 20, maybe closer to 30 mods. Mainly like portal gun, gravity gun, morph, hats, sink. I've lost count, so.
On the floor.
I'm Lex Manos. I create the Minecraft Forge modding API, the thing that makes all of these people able to do what they do.
I am Corrosis, and I've been modding for the past 6 years, and I'm responsible for the Weather and Tornadoes mod, Tropicraft with this guy, and a bunch of other ones like Zombiecraft, Zombie Awareness, fun little AI, stuff like that.
I am Kojo, and I work on the Tropicraft mod and have been doing that for 5.5 years now.
I'm Razzleberry Fox, and I made the DecoCraft mod.
And I'm Benomatic. I do the Twilight Forest mod, and yeah.
Cool. So a lot of people ask me, what got you started into things? I would like to know from you guys, what got you started into modding? What was the thing that kickstarted your interest in modding Minecraft and getting you doing what you're doing?
For me, it started out in high school when I was playing Minecraft. I was in my last year of high school, and I was talking to my friend, and we were playing Minecraft, and he introduced me to mods. So I saw how the mods were, and I got curious, and I like to create my own things. So that's how I got started. And that was about 5.5 years ago.
Similar story. My friends learned about Minecraft back when we were in high school. We got together and played for quite a while, and everyone got bored with it after a week. So I started digging around like I do with every game that I get bored of and looking at the internals and just having fun with it.
I remember the exact moment that I got into modding. I knew that there was some sort of modding community going on, and I was really into the game at this point. And this was way, way, way back in the day before animals were really persistent. So there's this one moment where I had a saddled pig, and I just wanted to try and land on it and mount it from really high up. So as I started to fall, the pig had despawned and disappeared, and I just cratered onto the ground. And I thought, I need to change this. So I started digging into the code, looking for a way to keep it from despawning, and it ended up making a fully fledged pets mod. Just started from there.
Yeah, in high school, my friend introduced me to the game of Minecraft, and we were playing for a little while, and like he was saying over there, that it was the same thing over and over again, and he told me about this thing called modding, and I was in my first programming class ever, so I really did not know that much. So the extent of the first mod I made was making a block with a smiley face on it. I felt really good about it, but came a long way from there and just kept going and making awesome stuff.
My sister was the one who introduced me to it. One of her friends gave it to her, and she started playing it, and she started to get really obsessed with it. She's like, "You have to play it." I'm like, "No, it's just blocks. Like, why?" So I start playing with it, and then we start building these really cool things. And I suddenly realized, oh, so I have this huge mansion, it's super awesome, but it's empty. How do I decorate it? And you start experimenting with using stairs to make chairs or whatever, but it's not enough. So as an industrial designer, I decided, hey, I'm just gonna make furniture for Minecraft. And that's how it happened for me.
My mod is a dimension mod, and back in the day, in like the very early days of modding, I was looking through, different mods, and I came across the Aether, which is like one of the very first dimension mods, and I started playing it, and I was like, this is so amazing, and then I'm like, I need to do this too. So yeah, this was back in the day before Forge, before there were a lot of things. You were just like modifying the decompiled class files of Minecraft, and I just dug in.
I would also like to add that the kind of similar to that story, the summer that I started working on Tropicraft was I had visited Puerto Rico on a trip from school, and all the palm trees really inspired me to make a palm tree, and Tropicraft started as just a palm tree.
So speaking of that, right?
Yeah.
When you started decompiling and getting into making the code for all the different mods that you guys work on, how did you learn the skills that you use to mod? I don't think everyone here comes from a programming background, right? So how did you get those skills that you need? And what are those skills?
Well, I've had some history in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the simple stuff. When I was around 15 years old, I was still in high school then. So I was thinking, okay, JavaScript can't be that difficult. Wait, no, JavaScript isn't that difficult, so modding Minecraft shouldn't be that difficult too, right? I was so wrong. So I think I spent actually like 2 weeks trying to make my first mod, and I remember that, yeah, programming background, I feel like you really need it. It's just like, I had so much trouble, and I'm sorry, what was the question again?
So what are the skills that you need to make a mod, and where did you get them from?
Oh, right. Well, you definitely need to be persistent. I mean, like I said, I took 2 weeks to make my first mod. If you weren't patient, if you weren't persistent, then many people would have given up since. And I'm drawing a blank here, so I'm still on my first cup of coffee.
Lex?
So he's right. It's all about persistence. I mean, most modders that I've spoken to are self-taught. They wanted to tinker around with it, so they went around looking at tutorials. And please, for the love of God, don't write a mod as your first program. Go do Hello World. But after you do that, it's mainly just about playing with the code and seeing what you can do with it. And you'll crash, you'll break your world, you'll create crazy things that you had no idea how it happened, but you'll eventually get it. You just got to keep working at it.
I think having a willingness to problem solve and just really study the code to understand what you need to do is a pretty good skill to have for that. I personally came from a background of pretty much just entirely self-taught, but I had an interest in web development, so I learned some basic programming structure, and I was messing around with C++ to make my own game engine, and just that really taught me a lot about object orientation and just the general structure of how to make everything work with each other. And then right from there, I went over to Minecraft modding and just applied that into the state that modding was back then.
Way back when modding was first in its infancy, there were only a handful of tutorials, like really good tutorials out there. And so what I ended up doing, because I was just starting to learn programming as I was learning to mod, was go through every possible tutorial I could find. And every time I would encounter something I didn't know, I would look up how it worked. And it just kind of went from there until I was able to hack something together.
I kind of cheat. I'm not a coder, I'm a designer, I'm an artist. So what I started doing was via bartering, I will make you a model if you write this part of code for my mod, please. So that's how I started. One of the first people to ask me for models was Kojo for Tropicraft. So I made him a seahorse, and I made him like a scuba diving gear in 3D and a bunch of stuff like that. And then he would like offer up tidbits of code that I would then run to someone and help me write this, please. And then that's how I started, but now I actually have an amazing team. that helps me do. All I have to do is make the models. If you've ever played with my mod, you know it's got hundreds of models, and that's all I do. And a shout out to Ty, one of my main coders is in the front row somewhere, helps me a lot. Genius person with amazing skills for coding. And my husband, who actually now works for Mojang, he also helps me a lot with my code. So yeah, I kind of cheat at it because I suck at coding. I just started taking my first coding lesson. I just finished a 5-week course, and I aced it. So I'm learning, but it takes time and dedication to code, and seriously, my respects to anyone who can think up the amazing things that I've seen coders do with Minecraft.
For me, being one of maybe the older people on the panel, I had learned code. Like, I had always been really interested in programming, like from back on programming basic on an Apple II or a Commodore 128, up to learning C with the Kernighan and Ritchie book, basically self-taught, but I also do have a computer science degree now. So yeah, when I was like super excited about starting my mod, I did know quite a bit of Java already, which really, of course, helped me dive in a lot more, but I've learned so much since then. And, as Raz was kind of touching on, the things that I've had to look up the most have been more about like art and like sound design and things like that, which is also fun to learn and fun to explore.
Great. So aside from actually knowing how to do modding, what motivates you to start doing it? Where do you find motivation or inspiration from? Or where maybe did you get the idea for one of the mods that you wrote?
For motivation, I feel that we are all very creative people, but we don't have a way to output it. So we get into modding, we start making code, and then you see something that you made inside the game, and that is what you made. And the feeling of just seeing that, it's just absolutely amazing. And I get so many different ideas, so many crazy, silly ideas, and
Can confirm.
just making that and just seeing that in Minecraft, I'm like, this turned out so much better than I imagined. And then getting the response from the community as well, it's like they're all just, their minds just blown at what they see. That helps so much more. It makes me want to do more mods. It makes me think I want to do something amazing. And that is mainly where I get my motivation for modding.
For me, as I don't actually create any content, I get my motivation from the fact that these guys exist, and the fact that after several years of work, we have a community that goes together, and we're teaching kids how to program. We're helping the community. We're having a lot of fun while doing it. So if I can help make that happen, it makes me happy.
I've always had a passion in AI development myself. I just always wanted to know what was going on in the minds of the NPCs that I was fighting in games. And I found that that is what's motivated a lot of the mods that I make. I just want to make the game more challenging. There's a lot of popularity for tech mods, but I don't consider it a good time unless you're in the corner screaming, trying to survive from all the mobs trying to break the walls down at you and stuff like that. And so that's mainly what motivates me. But then sometimes there's just the happy accidents that happen. Like I wanted to push mobs away from me with some code, but accidentally they kind of just rotated around me, and then that turned into a tornado eventually. So it just kind of, experimental code can kind of just create some interesting things.
For me, it was about seeing how far I could take it. As I said before, Tropicraft started out as a palm tree, but one day I was just kind of hanging out in one of the modding chats and mentioned that I had wanted to do volcanoes, and someone was saying, oh, I'm working on volcanoes, and so that kind of joined in. And then he was saying how, oh, I'm thinking about doing a tropical storms kind of thing, and I was like, well, that would fit perfectly with what I'm doing. And it kind of became, what else can I add to this that would make the experience even better? And it kind of just continued from there.
No, I don't know.
I mean, for me, the creative process is always kind of a mystery, even to me myself. I always like carry around notebooks because I never know when like a brainstorm will hit, you know, when I'll have like my most brilliant ideas. And sometimes I'm really glad I have the notebooks because I've like completely forgotten what the idea was by the time I get to my, you know, it's like sometimes there was a particular train trip from Toronto to Montreal where I was just like, alive with creativity, and luckily I had my notebook on the way because a lot of good ideas came out of that. And you know, by the time you get to your destination, you're like, idea was so good, but what was it?
I'm sorry, I was so distracted by their awesome answers, I just kind of blanked out. Creativity. I used to, I just like walking around and looking at magazines of like awesome places and jotting down everything and sketching. Sketchbook is like the main thing I carry around with me everywhere. I also sketch in my head. Like, it's really weird. I'll just sit there and stare at the screen, kind of like I was staring at you guys. I don't know. And I'll just stare at the screen and like people come up and talk to me. I'm like, uh-huh. And I'm not really answering because my brain is like completely on overdrive. And then I'll just start, and I can sit there for 8 hours straight, not even get up to go to the bathroom. I don't even know 8 hours passed. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even eat. I was so into whatever I was making. And I think that's something that makes what I do and everything so rewarding, to know that I can just zone out and completely enjoy what I'm doing without anything around me ever affecting anything that I'm doing.
Very cool. All right, we're going to do one or two more questions, but we also want to open up to audience questions. So if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask the guys up here and gals, there's a microphone in the center here. I think we can just start lining up. So one of the questions that I always hear from the community is, I'm interested in doing some modding. Like, where should I start, right? What should I do? Right? And we kind of touched on that a little bit with where did you learn the skills, but what would you recommend the first step for somebody who wants to get into writing mods to be?
Knowing how to program.
Always helps.
So beyond knowing the basics of Java, how to actually compile code, we have a great community that does all of the documentation. You got to remember that Minecraft isn't open source. It's not designed for mods. So you have to learn by talking to other people. The Forge forums, the Forge documentation, all of the open source mods that are out there, there's tons of people who are willing to help and tons of documentation.
Yeah, have a plan of something that you actually want to do in the game. If you have that, you can use that as your motivation to really get something done, rather than just being like, I want to learn how to code. You got to be like, I want to learn how to make this thing happen in the game. And if you hopefully already kind of know some programming, that would be great. If not, just try to get some object-oriented skills going on, and then you can just start diving in. And yeah, you find some features that are really similar to what you want to do and study that code and see how they go about approaching it. If it's not in vanilla Minecraft, there's probably a mod out there that's already done it. So there, as Lex was saying, there is a lot of GitHub repos out there that you can study this kind of code. So yeah, just go nuts with that.
I think the biggest thing for me about learning how to mod would be if you have an idea, a specific idea about what you want to do, you take that idea and you figure out what you need to learn to make that happen, and then you break that down even further. So if you want to make a crazy mod like tornadoes, let's say, you have to start first by understanding what a tornado would, like how you would comprise it. So maybe it's like particles. So you have to learn about particles. Oh, but to do particles, you have to learn about how like entities and mobs work. And so you work your way backwards. This is assuming you know Java. And if you don't know Java, as he has said, learn Java.
I think you also need to know modding doesn't necessarily have to be a one-person team. You have to figure out what is it that you like to do. What can you do? Can you make models? Can you make textures? There are not as many, artists in the community are hard to come by. There's a really big lack of artists, so if you like that and that's your thing, you can approach a mod in that way, or you can approach modifying the game in that way. It doesn't even have to be a mod at first. They developed this amazing system where you can make 3D models and put them in vanilla and replace a block with them. So you can start with that. You don't have to know how to code. You have to know how to read I think it's JSON file based, which is really, really easy to read. And you just replace the model that they gave you, which is a solid block, and you can add maybe, oh, I want a refrigerator, so I'll turn the iron block into a refrigerator block, and you can add a little handle to it and stuff, and you can put it in the game. So it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to code if you want to take a more artistic approach or a more creative approach. The community needs people who are teams that are of individuals that are specializing in different abilities, not only coding.
Yeah, I mean, to add on what they were saying, I would just say to don't be afraid to look at other people's code. It's open source for a reason. If there's something that you want to do in the game, and there's a mod that does a similar thing, like look at their code on GitHub and see what you can do to modify it to do what you want to do.
And one final thing is, don't be afraid to ask for help from anyone. The worst they can say is no.
That's right. Yeah, persistence in in figuring out what you want to do is very important. Don't let anyone shut you down from your idea.
Ask people, teach me to model. I've offered modeling classes. People, I don't charge. Tweet at me, teach me how to model. I will gladly sit down with you and teach you.
Make a YouTube series on how to model.
Will you help me?
Sure. Great. All right, let's hear from the audience. What are some of the questions you guys wanted to hear?
Okay, would you ever recommend for starting modding for programming any of the block-based programming like platforms like what they're showing in the convention hall? Because you're talking about doing the code itself and not just moving blocks around.
So what you're talking about, I think, is called graph programming, where it's blocks that have the title if statement, and you set a couple values and you link them together.
Well, they're showing down in the main hall of these platforms where you've got the blocks and it's like Scratch, but for programming.
That is actually an excellent tool to start learning basic
Closer to the
logic
mic, please. Speak closer.
Sorry. That's an excellent tool to start learning the basic logic in how to understand the basics of programming. So if you can get your hands on that, that's an excellent tool to use.
And I think code.org has something similar to that for learning. So that's, like he said, a very good introduction.
I have to add to this because you know how I'm learning coding? You know what my 5-week course was?
Blocks.
Scratch. No, really. My husband looked at it and he said, this is going to help you think like a programmer. And the final test was so hard, even he had trouble. I was like, I'm stuck. And he sat down and he's like, oh, wow. And everyone's like, it's Scratch. No, Scratch is great to learn because it's a visual block-based coding program that will help you start thinking like a programmer. So it's great, in my opinion.
Yeah, do what helps you learn the best. That's the best way to get started.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, like I said, I started, back in the day, I started with Apple Basic, and other very simple languages, and, that helped me in figuring out how to tell the computer to do things, basically. Yeah, so start with something that's on the level that you're ready to take on, basically.
And you can even, you can even continue to use it later on.
Oh, yeah.
You can use it for really helping you visually structure how you want to do your code. And even professional development kits like Unreal Engine there's a lot of professional games that come out with that one. They use that kind of system too to just link the code and the actual like AI decision trees, how they're going to have the conversation and stuff. You can really build them in that kind of system as well to really help you self-hud.
Good question. Thank you.
Hi, Minecraft 101. How do we use your mods? Because I've tried to figure out how to load them
Yep.
and use them, and I can't figure it out.
And that
So-
links into a question that we also had prepared was, where to get mods and where to get them safely. So,
Bingo.
yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure when their panel is, but there is a panel later today specifically about mod packs and FTB, 2 p.m. They make it really easy just to get a bunch of mods and put them together. On my side, you just install Forge with the installer. It's 2 clicks, and then you just put mods into a folder. And after that, CurseForge, the Minecraft forums, there's tons of mods out there.
I've gotten a lot of parents talking to me via the Minecraft forums, like, how do I install your mod? My child really, really wants your mod, and I don't know what to do. Basic steps is always look at the versions. A lot of the crashes that I get are parents downloaded Forge, and they downloaded the latest version of Forge, and my mod is not for the latest, it's for like one version before. So you have to really check, this mod is for 1.7.10, and you check when you download the mod, the version of the mod for the version of Forge. They have to say the same number. That's one of those super, like, I get it a lot.
And one of the tools that's the best to use?
Yes.
And one of the tools that's best to use, in my opinion, is the Curse client.
Yes.
So the Curse client, which is available out there, is pretty easy, and it will do a lot of that for you. It will make sure that when you go and I say I want to run on Minecraft version 1.7, it'll only show you Minecraft 1.7 mods, and it'll also install Forge for you. So the Curse client is really the best one, in my opinion.
It's also a good way to make sure that you're getting the actual mod that you want, not some copycat that will be malicious or something.
Right. So the Curse client, there's a group of people that vet the mods, make sure that they're safe. And because there are malicious entities out there that will take someone's mod and rehost it with malicious code, and that's something that you want to avoid. And even better is when you download through the Curse client, a lot of the mod developers get some points that they can use, and it's just a way to give back to the mod developers. Cool. So that's a good question because it's one that we're going to address anyway, so thank you. Go ahead.
Did we ever figure out who had the PaxPox mod? Added the PaxPox?
Who did make the PaxPox mod? Was it Aichun? It sounds like something he would do.
I remember that mod. I'm pretty sure it was iChan.
It's always a safe guess.
The one where like it was on Forgecraft and like you were poisoned for like 5 seconds or whatever. That.
It sounds like an Aichun kind of mod.
Yeah.
Like,
Even if it
people were,
wasn't
like,
him, I'm
feeling
gonna blame
like,
him.
Okay, what
Blame
mod
Ai-chan.
is it that's causing this?
Yeah.
Okay, actually, before I came here, and Colossus knows about this, I was actually supposed to update that and remove it entirely.
Okay then.
I apologize.
If you want people to subscribe to you, then you should subscribe to me, Robot Junior Plays 03, ROBOTJRPLYAYZ03. Thank you.
Doing it right now.
I just forgot half of those letters.
I forgot all of them. Cool.
Was your favorite mod?
The inevitable question.
Go ahead.
That's a good one.
Mod loader. Who actually remembers mod loader here? Well, the thing is, it's very hard to define your favorite mod because if you know the mods, there are like so many different kinds of mods, and they all do so many different things that if you want to compare like a mod like Tropicraft versus say NEI or JEI, how are you going to compare them? You know, it's like one is more like a utility, and one adds content, a whole new dimension, and then you got silly mods like mine, which is like, hey, there's a giant pig. What are you going to do about that? So the argument is like, you can't really have a favorite mod. I mean, in a certain genre, maybe you could have one you would like a little bit more than the others. But in terms of like, what's your favorite mod specifically in this thing that's like, there's so many different kinds, it's a very difficult question to answer. And if you really want to give it an answer, Forge. Because it makes every other mod possible.
Yes.
Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I would like to echo his answer, but also provide my favorite moment with mods, which was a combination of his mods. He has a mod that makes zombies sense you out and find you, and then he has a mod that adds zombie invasions. And we had a bunch of other really dangerous mods, and we were playing on a super modded server, and all of us kind of gathered at his house one night when there was an invasion going on, and it was hundreds of zombies just swarming the base. And I remember that we were all gathered on the roof because they had dug into the downstairs, and we were all really scared. And we started to pour lava because there were just so many of them. And there was a zombie inside the lava healing all the other zombies. And so none of them were dying. And I just remember all these mods combining together to form this one ultimate, just crazy death zombie moment. And so, yeah.
I've got something to add to this. If I'm going to focus on a specific category that I like, it's those types of mods where it just adds the extra challenge. And I just love how Father Toast's special mobs and his special AI complements the stuff that I do. It just makes it all work together so well. He adds so many types of mobs for each main type of Minecraft mob, so it just adds so much variation and so much surprise to each combat. It's great.
Cool.
Ready?
Anybody else? Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah. First, I wanted to congratulate you on what you've done. I mean, the tools are unofficial, and yet what you've accomplished, Lex, and the group is really amazing. I've had the chance to write a mod, and yet I would say that it's still like there's a lot further we can go as a community. That it's, if you compare the deployment, like compared to the App Store or something where you can click something, it's downloaded and queued up. So I guess my question really is, what's the future? How do we make this better and easier to deploy for the person over here and for the countless people that come to me? And like, that's great, but what do I do? I need this, that, and the other.
So that's where the Curse Launcher and partnerships with companies like those come in, trying to make a official, here's where 90% of the mods are, and here's the easiest way to do it. We have the tools on the modder side to get all of that deployed, get it all packaged up, ready to go. It's this at the simplest state ever in the entire history of Minecraft modding for modders to do it. We're just waiting for Curse and potentially others to step up and iron out the kinks. So it's in the works.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember when you have to download the mods and put them all in the mods folder and then manipulate item and block IDs so that they didn't conflict with each other. And those were the good old days.
I remember having to unzip and transfer things into the jar.
Yes, I remember that one
And
too.
then recompiling and nothing working and crying over my computer for 8 hours straight until I got 3 mods to work together.
Who here ever had to delete the meta.inf? Which you should not do anymore, by the way. And if a mod ever tells you to do it, no.
Yeah, there was like a spreadsheet or a wiki page with all the IDs that each popular mod used, and you had to fight for which IDs you could get. It was a bad time.
Oh God, I've seen that spreadsheet. Props to those who made it.
Remember when there was a mod that expanded the number of block IDs because there used to be a 255 limit?
Yes.
And you had to download the 4096 block ID mod? Yeah, good times. So to answer your question, it's easier than it's ever been, like Lex has said. But yeah, there is definitely room for growth to make it easier. And I think, like we said, the Curse client is definitely making it that much easier. So good question, thank you.
One thing I do have to note about that is, if you have suggestions on how to make it easier, post them on the forums, post them on our repository. We need ideas. if you run into problems, let us know. We could probably fix them.
What is the hardest mod you've ever made?
That's a good question.
I would have to say it would be my first mod.
No, I think decorating your house is.
Which was what?
My first mod was Portugal, and back then I have no programming experience other than JavaScript, and I actually did all of the code in Notepad++. I tend to mention this a lot, and back then I wasn't using an IDE, and MCP at the time had something where you could recompile and start a client, and I was constantly doing that, going from Notepad++, then recompile, start client, test things out, then go back and do it all over and over again for 2 weeks before I finally had one item.
I have an idea.
And I felt like that was the hardest part of making a mod, because you're going into a new project that you don't understand yet, and you're trying to figure out how it's done. And this was about 6 years ago, so there's no documentation. Forge has done a crazy amount to make things easier for people now. And I appreciate that, but 6 years ago, it was so much more difficult to make a mod, especially when you don't have programming experience. Don't make the same mistake as I did. Please don't.
Anybody else?
I mean, it's just a part of my mod, but one of the hardest features in it to make was the Hydra, a giant multi-headed dragon. The infrastructure, the code behind it was so complex. It took me like 2 or 3 weeks of just coding before I could even see the thing in game, before I could even see the monster in game. And then after all that, once I was finally okay, it's ready to turn this thing on. Let's see it. So I turn it on, and immediately this giant multi-headed dragon appears, and all 5 or 12 of its heads turn on me and incinerate me. So from there, what I had to, I was actually in the position of trying to make this thing possible to beat, rather than, just trying to design a tough monster.
So there was this one project that I was working on back in the day, and it was just too big to ever actually release. But there was one section of the mod which was using a lot of block physics-based stuff, and I tried to implement a physics library called JBullet. And in the end, I just kind of tried to make this big spider bot thing that would have actual physical limbs that would interact and react each with inverse kinematics and everything like that. And it would just try to climb on villages and stuff like that and just destroy them if it could do enough damage. And I actually managed to release a little part of that as sort of like an experimental mod where you can actually get on the thing and walk it around with controls and just try to climb over mountains and just see how silly it works out. That took me months and months and months and months of work just to get it all worked out properly and showing up in the game with the blocks that you can walk on the actual monster itself. It was a blast. It was a good learning experience.
I remember that. I saw pictures and videos of it. It was horrifying, but it was so awesome at the same time.
Yeah, I remember it too. It was awesome. I was like, oh, wow.
Cool.
For me, I think the toughest model that anyone asked me to make, because MINECON asked me to make a few models for them, and I had to actually go into books and see how a centrifuge works and what all the parts are, because they actually wanted to animate it all, and a microscope, and I had to look at a lot of pictures and do a bit of research on medical design equipment for a Minecraft mod. That was interesting.
Cool. Good question, thanks. Next.
First of all, thank you guys. I probably played all of your mods, and a lot of you have helped me on forums. Really appreciate it. You're really, really nice in person.
Thank you.
So my question is, where's the future of modding going? I started modding. By the time I finished my mod, I keep getting ideas. I'm only on 1.8. Where should I be? Everyone's on 1.10, and is this going to continue? down the road with Mojang, and so can I expect that I need to change from Java to C++ at some point, or where's that going? Thank you.
So there currently is a panel going on right now telling about the 1.11 update changes that I kind of wanted to watch, but we never know what will officially come out of Mojang. I can say that they are doing an add-on system, but it probably won't affect our type of modding, at least for several years to come, until they get it actually up and running and as powerful as it needs to be. So stick with Java. Mojang has a fairly standardized release cycle of a new version roughly every 6 months, so it's not that hard of a grind to go through. So stay on the latest, keep going on the Java, and we'll, as always, react to Mojang when they release official changes.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like trying to jump on a moving train a lot of times with the modding, but I think that's like that throughout a lot of places in tech. You always have to try to keep up with the latest versions and the latest things, and it is kind of rough sometimes.
Cool.
I think that the next update, they mentioned that it was going to be more exploration focused, and they just did a combat update as well. So I'm hoping that mods will really start to push a lot more progression in the game. For the full 6 years, I've always hoped that there's been more challenges to go out in the world and fight, and Ben Amatic has done a great job at that with Twilight Forest, honestly. I'm hoping that a recurrent complex can also pull off some really cool structure gen and stuff like that. Just building the tools required to help modders also add these sort of tiered questing, progression, and everything like that.
Cool. Thank you. Good question.
I have a short question and a long question. Short question. iTunes, are you a firm believer that pigs can fly?
I have seen it.
Okay, for my more serious question, what for all of you is the most memorably catastrophic yet hilarious bug that you have come across either in your own mods or for like Direwolf 20 using other people's mods? Sure. The most catastrophically bad, but funny.
When you mentioned that, like the first thing that comes to mind was back when I used to play modded with a couple of friends. I had this base, and the next day I logged in. I had a minimap as well. I looked at the minimap, and I see just this huge jagged line barely missing my base.
He's looking at you, Croesus.
It turned out that like a tornado had passed by overnight and barely missed my base. But that's the first thing that came to mind. But for a bug in, say, my mod, I still remember when I have Gravity Gun, and in Gravity Gun you can grab other players. So let me just ask you right now, what do you think would happen if you grab a player and that player grabs you back? There you go, you fly. And I heard about people doing this, and I hear that they use this as a quick method of transportation. It's like two people, it's like, who needs minecarts? Who needs pigs that fly? Just grab each other and soar into the air. Unfortunately, most of them died from fall damage.
So for me, I usually don't write content for stuff, but when I'm digging around in Minecraft's code and editing stuff, my most memorable, funny one is a story I've told quite a few times of I was rewriting part of the world rendering engine, and I kind of messed up, and every frame, it would switch the terrain between the terrain texture and the item textures. So it was all spazzing out, and when I program, I listen to lots of like electric music and stuff. So I'm just sitting there, I just made my own rave. enjoyed that for a few minutes, went and fixed it. The most catastrophic thing that I've ever done is you know how if you put a block of water next to another block of water, it'll make another block of water? I accidentally did that with lava, and I accidentally made it not require the second block of lava. I may have made a lava ocean in about 2 ticks.
To play off of that one, my catastrophic moment was in Tropicraft when we added volcano explosions at one point, or eruptions, sorry, and we forgot to code in an end to the eruption, and there was a village that was just sitting at the bottom of the volcano, and that village did not exist for very long.
I have a mod that I've been working on for a while, and I've been testing it with some friends. Minecraft has some localized difficulty stuff where it'll get harder if you stay in a certain area, and I've been trying to complement that so much by keeping track of how much damage you do to mobs and just how good of material you have. So I was testing this with a mod pack, and mod packs like to have a lot of mob grinder type stuff, which will just automatically kill off these mobs. I didn't realize that in order to actually kill these mobs, they're doing about 500,000 damage on a hit to do this. So I had not coded any max limits to any of my values, and I did stuff like boost speed of zombies, boost damage. They would have some abilities to jump and lunge at you if you're trying to fly in the sky. And when that information from the mob grinding came in, the whole game just went absolutely insane, and everybody was just freaking out. It was great. I love it.
Catastrophic. There's nothing catastrophic about furniture. But
some people may beg to differ, by the way.
Okay.
I know some interior designers who would differ on that opinion.
Okay. I have one short and one a little not short. The worst thing that DecoCraft ever did was we had this hit, the invisible block system, and people used to use that to bypass other people's chests by, I don't know how they placed a block, and an invisible block would pop in and it would remove the ownership from the chest, so other people would place one of my blocks and then steal everything from someone else and then take their block and walk away. That was, I think, the worst thing that DecoCraft ever did. But the worst thing that ever happened to me is I have my friends call it my Franken server. It's a server that I've had since beta. And I've updated it every version, and every time I update it, something goes horribly wrong, and I'll suddenly walk into a world and everything is iron bars, and all of my things will be mushrooms with iron bars, and my trees will turn into something else. So I have backups everywhere, and every update my husband just groans, "Oh no, we have to update your Franken map." It's the worst thing because it just does all these weird things. The worst one was probably when they switched from ID numbers to block names, that was just, no. It took us a month to get my map kind of working. Oh. And it was horrible.
Yeah, I don't have any memorable bugs. Although every time I'm playing Minecraft, I do generally end up making a machine that runs out of control and probably kills me 5 or 6 times, or overruns the entire world with chickens or something like that. That's the fun of modded Minecraft.
Nowadays, Forge protects against chunk resets, but I've had my fair share back in the day, which, for those of you who don't know, if something went wrong in the chunk, it would just rebuild it from scratch. So you'd have your whole base, and then in the middle of your base was just a chunk of, oh, this is just grass now. Everything you had is gone.
Yeah.
Next question.
How many of you use Java Eclipse, and what version do you use?
So the question was, how many of you use Java Eclipse, and what version do you use? And I guess if there's an alternative that you use for development, what is it?
I think 1 or 2 people here only use Eclipse.
So the official Forge recommendation is Eclipse because we can ship a really easy workspace with it. I personally use it. I use whatever the latest is as of a year and a half ago.
That's not what latest means.
When it comes to IDEs, it's whatever you're most comfortable in. So with the new development environment in Gradle, you can make mods with whatever you want, so.
Cool.
Not Notepad++.
I do.
Yep. Next question.
I have two questions. One, why do some mods are not compatible with other mods? Or why are mods not compatible with other mods sometimes?
I would say for the most part they are nowadays. Pretty much all mods play together nicely because of Forge.
It's mainly in 1.7.
Yeah, no, even now, I still have some of my own mods not compatible with one another. The problem is like, for me, I would do something, and because there is no easy way to do it, I have to replace Mojang's way of doing it. So I do that.
Which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that.
This is the end of iChun.
I think as a non-professional coder, the way I see it is, imagine when you do what iTunes did that you're not supposed to do.
Bad iChun.
You have this, so you put it here. But the other mod wants to grab another thing and put it exactly in the same spot this is. And you can't, because this one is already in that spot. And so this one will fight this one, and this one will fight this one to be in that spot, and that's when everything breaks. That's like the best explanation I can give.
Yeah. But it's rare these days.
And then my second question is, why do you have a CubeCraft sign behind you?
We have absolutely no idea. Also, if anyone sees me completely soaked after this,
blame Lex.
Blame Lex.
It's a tradition. He likes it.
Yeah.
My question is, what's the most time-consuming mod you have ever made?
Well, Tropicraft is going on 6 years, 5.5, 6 years now, so I'm gonna go with that one.
It's definitely Portagon for me. Okay, there is a running joke that every time I update Portagon, I don't update Portagon, I rewrite the entire mod. So it's gone through like 3 or 4 different iterations already, and it's taken me, I don't know, I would say easily over 1,000 hours just working on that mod.
For ones that I've released, I would say ZombieCraft. It had its own gameplay type that was going on. You had to really take control of a lot of the situations that were going on in the game, and it's pretty much a clone of Call of Duty Zombies. So yeah, I used to have a team that would help me with it, but then everybody, modders move on, it happens, and I just tried to reinvent it myself. And this was also back in the days of ModLoader MP, before there was a really standard multiplayer way to do things. So that just took a good while to get that working right, and getting all the glitches working out where it would just be on its own dimension. That was a real challenge.
Cool.
I've only made one mod. But considering it has over 1,000 models, and models can take me anywhere from 3 hours to 3 days to make. So yeah, that's a lot of time.
Cool. Oh, go ahead.
I'm streaming this to BTM and some other people, and they've been telling me questions to ask, and I picked the one that I think is least likely to get me killed. So,
Good idea.
how do you guys feel about when Mojang borrows something from your mods, especially actually to Benementic? As I have been informed during this time, during the changelog panel, they added something that was similar to Twilight Forest. I don't know anything about that. I am just passing on something from somebody who does not wish to be named.
Cool.
I think we're like a scene here, or like an ecosystem, and there is a lot of copying. I sometimes see the ideas in other mods, and I'm like, that seems very similar to something in my mod. But there's no real point in getting excited about it. We're all working on something based on Minecraft, we're already copying and already building off of other people's ideas. So personally, it doesn't really bother me.
Cool.
I think as mod authors, what we want is for people to use what we've created, and I think seeing that implemented in the game would make us happy in the sense that we want people to enjoy the game in a certain way, and if they are allowing everyone to do that, I think that's pretty cool.
I think imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So I think also coding is complicated enough that unless you literally opened the code and copied and pasted it into your own code, the way you go about doing it is going to be entirely different. So there's that. Unless you blatantly, for example, I've stumbled onto people who've done this, copied my texture, copied the texture that it took me ages to make, and then copied my model, and then pasted my texture onto their model, and they made a mod with my models in it. That's when I get upset. But mostly, it's not a problem. Everyone's free to have the same idea. It's like a bow and arrow. I think bows and arrows appeared on different continents, and they were the same idea on the other side of the planet. So you having an idea and another person having the same idea doesn't mean that person copied you.
Cool.
That VTM is a convention within Minecraft that this is being streamed on an open computer screen in Minecraft. They asked me to
Cool.
Have you ever modded in something besides Minecraft?
Good question.
So, I started programming back when I was 8 years old, and there's a game called Diablo 1, before your big fancy World of Warcraft and StarCraft 2, all that stuff existed.
You young whippersnappers.
And that's where I started, because I got on there and I was like, okay, there's a server, and why are there dancing cows on my screen? Get in there, start digging around. There's a lot of different things. Pretty much the entire Blizzard catalog I've modded in some way.
I've made an add-on for Left 4 Dead 2. That took me about a day. You guys know what tanks are in Left 4 Dead, yeah? Imagine if there's nothing else except just tanks. When you kill one, you do get your health back though, so that kind of compensates for it. Trust me, it does. Lots of people have played it. It compensates for that.
Back in the day, I did do some modding for Half-Life 2, where I would take one of those flying camera things and mount turrets onto it, and also add some AI to make it follow you around as a pet. And you could point it at a target and be like, go after that guy. And he would just wander over there, and the 3 turrets would lock on and just take out the whole team. I think I have a video of that on my YouTube channel. It's pretty hilarious stuff, yeah. I used that with a source mod and the other one, I can't remember what it's called. Did that stuff briefly before Minecraft. And back in the day when StarCraft 2 was in beta and it didn't actually have a map editor, people really wanted like 8-player maps, but I think there was only like 4-player ones at the time, so I just started to get really handy with a hex editor and started to just adjust that stuff to expand the resources and the spawn points and stuff like that and everything, and release that actually on Curse way back in the day.
Cool. Good. All right, I think we have time for one more quick question. So.
You talk about in the past when we had to mod with NCP and mod loader, and you had to unzip everything and just dump everything in the jar file. And in the past, like when my friend and I worked on SCP Craft, I had to modify a lot of the world rendering classes and the animal AI and all of that. And unfortunately, obviously also Optifine did that as well. So I had to talk with like the developer of him and ask him to give me the code so I can give a patch file and all of that. And in the past, obviously, you had to talk with other developers, like what ID did you use and all of that. So my question is, how often did you have to talk to other developers in the past and be like, what ID are you using? Hey, can we work together to fix our mods to work together because this is a mess?
Yep.
quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. First of all, thanks for making SCP Craft. I like that one. But yeah, Forge, I mean, when it came out, fixed a lot of the very, very early conflicts with, you know, you're modifying code and someone else is modifying the code, and they just clash. Yeah, I think as of previous to version 1.10, there was biome IDs for everything, and my mod adds a tons of biomes. So yes, I've had to work with people like the developers of Biomes Aplenty and things to like work out an ID system that like minimally clashes, but there's always problems as long as there's IDs.
So unfortunately, we do have to wrap up the panel right now. So we're getting the red light, and it's flashing at us, and it's saying stop talking. So thank you, everyone, for coming. We'll be outside, I think, in the hallway if anybody wants to meet and say hi and all that good stuff. So thanks, everybody. Take it easy.
So I did this yesterday, and I want to do it one more time. I'm going to try to get a selfie with everyone if you want to scrunch into the middle real quick.
Yeah. And they're probably going to want us to clear out the room. So after this quick picture, everybody head outside if you want to come say hi to us.